Welcome, everyone. We're going to have a very special discussion in the Head in the Cloud show. We're going to talk about recession proof tech jobs, how to get hired in a recession, and tech career management, what to do in a challenging career environment. I'm going to be here with my teammates. All of us have MBAs. All of us have big backgrounds in economics, accounting, and finance. In addition to cloud architecture, we're going to have a big, fun discussion. We'll talk about if there'll be layoffs in 2022. We'll talk a little bit about tech layoffs and what they accomplish. We'll talk about what happened at Amazon. We'll talk about a possibility of a recession in 2022. We'll talk about the macroeconomics of inflation. We'll talk about what it all means to your career and how do you thrive in the career. See, we're starting to see some trends in the economy that we're not really thrilled about. We're starting to see some things, and we're going to talk about the inflation. We're going to talk about what's going on with interest rates. And we're going to talk about how that's going to affect everyone. Then we're going to talk about what goes on in the tech industry, who gets hired during a recession, which are the recession-proof jobs, and also, if you're not in one of those recession-proof jobs, you know what else we'll talk about? How to show the company that they need you, that they can't live without you. Here's the thing. I've been coaching people for 20 years. I've been in tech for 25 years. I've been through 20 layoffs, and I've never been laid off. But there's been 20 layoffs that the company has worked through, and I've never been laid off. And I actually want to know something else. The clients I've coached, I only had one person that was laid off in 20 years. And this person, well, he got a 6-figure severance pay, and within a week had a $300,000 job. And this was during a recession after a big layoff at a big tech company. So the point is, you can manage your career in a recession. You can get cloud architect jobs in a recession. You can get cloud engineer jobs in a recession. You can get any kind of job that's necessary if you've got the right skills, the right training, and you can position yourself as the solution to a business problem. So we often talk about designing architectures to solve business problems. We're going to talk about how to architect your career to thrive in good times and how to thrive in bad times. Many of the skills are the same, but I'm going to also tell you some are different. So those are the things that we're going to talk about. But before we have our discussion, let's talk about the free Azure Solution Architect Bootcamp in June. Join us. The banner's above. At least 1,000 people have already registered. I want everybody in the entire world coming to this event. We're going to talk about it from the perspective of architecture in addition to just certification. So it's going to be fun. We use our special brand of making complicated things simple to understand. So we're excited about that. And because of what's going on in the economy, because of the inflation data, which we'll talk about, because of the Netflix job losses, the way Meta basically canceled some of its hiring, the recent Amazon losses, their financial losses, well, we're going to extend our discount because we want to make sure that anybody that wants a cloud engineer job or a cloud architect job can get it. So we're going to keep our 30% off Memorial Day discount for a little while longer to help all of you. I know this inflation rate is sky high. I know it's affecting American salaries, American savings, and we're going to talk about all those data and how to protect yourself. Because if you can protect it, you can have the best life, the best career. And how do you take advantage of recession? Because every crisis is an opportunity. Here's a chance to move up, get ahead, and build your career during tough times, and we will talk about that. But I'll have my team introduce themselves. Like I said, all MBAs, all with big business roles, from marketing to running big operations things to sales, business, and CEOs. We've got the background. So let's talk about it. So Chris, you want to introduce yourself and your background? And we'll also talk about what kind of people let go and why. Also, and Chris is going to help lead that discussion because he's had to make a lot of layoff decisions in his life.
Yeah. So I'll start it off kind of light. Mike, you got to do one thing for me when you do the Azure Bootcamp.
Sure.
You got to wear this polo again. I love this new polo. I've never seen this polo before.
Okay, great. What's been going on is my washing machine broke, and I had 14 shirts, of which I had 3 of each in different colors, so I didn't have to do too much thinking. And I said, dear, the washer's broke. Go get me a bunch of shirts. So thank you. I'll tell her to buy more, a different color.
I think that's about my size too, Mike. So
maybe we can arrange that too.
I didn't even notice the difference until somebody else pointed it out in the chat box. But yeah, so like Mike said, this is a topic that we've been kind of keeping our ear to the ground on. We've had our eye on it for the past couple of months. And it's about time that we start to talk about it. We're about to go into the last month of the second quarter of the year, and we'll find out very quickly in July which direction things are going. So we want to go ahead and have this discussion now, so that we can help as many people as possible be prepared to make the best of any potential situation. Obviously, just because we're having the discussion doesn't mean that any of this is it will happen. We just want to make sure that everyone's prepared, and that's our goal and our purpose at Go Cloud Careers, is to make sure that everyone is prepared for their best success. So
that's it. Everybody is prepared for their best success, their best thing. And while Chris is talking, I just got another press wire that came over. The question is, the subject is, are we in a recession? Going back to you, Chris.
Yeah. And I mean, it's very telling when the president of the United States has a meeting with the head of the Fed, the independent Fed.
Right.
At 1:15 today. I mean, obviously things are urgent.
And not only are they urgent, they're trying to talk up the economy. This is the best economy we've ever seen.
Yeah, and that's something that I'll go ahead. I'll let Elonzo talk here in just a minute, but I want to make it very clear to everybody. Mike and Elonzo tasked me with finding data points, and I found plenty of data points from plenty of sources, and I ignored all the spin.
Yeah,
we're going to be talking just about the data points.
And nothing. We will discuss macroeconomic concepts. We will discuss Keynesian economic theory, which is what we're talking about to some degree. We will touch classical economic theory, but we will not mention any political things ever. Yeah. We'll keep it subjective, objective things that are wide known to anybody that's got a Keynesian economic background or a classical economic background.
Yeah. So I mean, even though our sources are, my sources are going to be as wide as CNBC and MSNBC and Washington Post and Axios and Business Insider, I don't care what they have to say. We're just talking about the data that they provide.
Yeah.
So I want to make that clear. We'll be sharing the data and forming our discussion about our thoughts of that data, not anyone else's. So I'll let you talk now, Elonzo.
And actually, before Elonzo gets to that, as educated professionals, all of you, as architects, which are business leaders, as business executives, and as engineers, as anybody, don't take what somebody tells you at face value. Read the statistics and make the decision yourself.
Yes.
We go everywhere. There was an article we saw. We're not really in a bad economy. And then inside the article, it posted the most dangerous economic things we've ever seen. So, for us, it's about objective. When I come from medicine, I evaluate the patient. They tell me the disease they have because they watched a YouTube video. It's usually not.
Yep. So,
Elonzo.
Well, as you all know, my name's Elonzo. If you don't, my name's Elonzo Coleman. Just recently joined Go Cloud Careers. Was a student. Mike saw really great things in me and really worked hard to get here, to really showcase who I am. And a part of this conversation, Mike and Chris are going to show the generalities. They're going to talk about the data. I'm also going to support that by how you can be the best employee ever, how you can continue to maintain your valuation, increase your valuation, and also present who you are and how you can just maintain your position. And if not, go somewhere else where you can provide even more increased value add as the person that they hire for the organization. So I'm looking forward to sharing all that and Christmas wrapping all of this stuff with my coworkers and my teammates about how you can be resilient in this economy.
So Elonzo is going to be bringing the lumps of coal, and I'll be bringing the lumps of coal with the data points, and Elonzo will be making it look pretty with the Christmas wrapping.
Well, we are the triumvirate. We know how we can get this worked out. We're no good alone, but together we do a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah. All right. So Mike, we'll let you kind of, I guess, set the scene.
Sure. I'm going to set the scene. I'm going to talk. Sounds good. I'll talk a little bit about the macroeconomics of inflation, and then I'd like to bring in the data, and talk about what that data means. So,
I'm ready to go with the data. So you just tell me when you want it,
I love data. By the way, can all you guys see us on YouTube? Is it crisp and is it clean? Because when I'm looking at our YouTube screen, it's not looking crisp and clean for me. But when I'm looking at our broadcast studio, it looks great to me. So hopefully everything's not. If not, let us know.
Yeah. So
before we go too long, can we just get a cloud hired from everybody? Because you can still get cloud hired in this time, and we're going to get into this. So let's talk about what causes inflation or deflation and which is more dangerous. Inflation is when prices rise. Deflation is when prices go low. Both are dangerous. Most would consider deflation, which is when prices go low, to be the most scary thing in the world. What is deflation? Deflation is this: you buy $1 million house and all of a sudden it's worth $500,000. That's deflation. We saw that a while ago, and we may see things like that again throughout history based upon what goes on. But here's what inflation is: when prices rise. Now, generally speaking, the government targets an inflation rate, a very low inflation rate of 1 or 2%, and here's the reason why. Deflation is so dangerous to our economy that having just a slight degree of inflation protects us from slight economic downturn. Now, what causes inflation? Inflation is caused by too much money supply. So generally speaking, in a high inflationary environment, the government has things they can do. They can stop spending money, for example. They can raise taxes to vacuum money out of the economy. This is assuming the economy is booming and it's strong. So they can raise taxes and they can raise interest rates to make it harder for businesses and people to buy, so they buy less stuff. When that actually occurs, what happens? Demand cools down, prices cool down, and things return to a level of normalcy, generally speaking. The problem is if you've got inflation and an unstable economy at the same time. Like in 1980, we had something called stagflation, high levels of unemployment and extremely high inflation. You know what our mortgage rates were back then? 18% when people would buy a house. And truth be told, even right now at less than 6%, we are at historically low interest rates in the grand scheme of our country and the global community. So if there's too much demand, it drives prices up. Now, what also drives prices up? We've got this supply and demand curve. The greater the supply, the lower the stock, the higher the price. So globally, what's going on, and we'll talk about supply. We've got prices that are rising because of supply chain challenges, and Chris, we're going to get into the numbers with that very soon. So now we've got sky high pricing, and there's that. So remember, if we can cool the economy by the government spending less, raising taxes and raising interest rates, what happens if the government spends too much money or promotes several $1 trillion in stimulus packages? Well, statistically speaking, if the government spends too much money, like they have, it will cause extreme demand and inflation. So what's occurred in the last few years? We had COVID. Government spent some money, needed to, admittedly speaking, lowered rates. The Fed decided to lower rates through a couple means. They lowered the Fed's rates to basically zero. They bought treasuries to lower the rates on treasuries. If you guys ever want to talk about how treasuries are priced, we can talk about that in another thing. And then there was that. So, the government overspent to keep us out of this. Now, at the same time the government was overspending, the U.S. decided to cut off its oil supply from the world. So the U.S. had oil. Lots of it, the U.S. was exporting oil. That stopped about 1.5 years ago. We cut down our oil pipelines. So what we had an inflation in the terms of fuel costs that occurred ever since that happened. It was pretty much overnight. Oil went from basically $20 a barrel, $28 a barrel, to basically $100 a barrel, $110 a barrel. So that raised fuel costs. Now, fuel costs are a tax on the average consumer. And Chris is going to get into the data of how much Americans spend on fuel, which is scary high for the average family. And we'll talk about that. So that raised fuel costs. Now, we've already got a supply chain that's messed up. So we've got a supply and demand curve problem. And now we've got a conflict in Europe. And now we've got this conflict in Europe, and half of the companies are boycotting certain countries. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Remember, this is not a political anything. But now we've got a supply chain problem. Now we've got a COVID outbreak in Asia, and everything is made in Asia right now. Even if you wanted to build a phone in America, you couldn't, because all the parts are over there, for example. Or if you wanted to build it all in England, you couldn't because the supply chains are certain parts of the world. And now you've got boats that can't leave. So now jet fuel is going up. Diesel fuel, which is transportation. In California, diesel fuel is $9 a gallon. $9 a gallon. Wow. It's worse than Europe used to be.
And while we're on that point, the busiest port in the United States is in California.
Oh boy.
So things coming into the United States come into California where the highest diesel rates are. Sorry.
We're looking at
I know we got lots to talk about that later, but I just wanted to hit that point right there in case I missed it later. We'll go back to Mike so he can continue setting the scene, but I just wanted to point that big thing right there. The Long Beach.
That biggest port in the area.
Yep.
And by the way, the most regulated port in the world, making it harder to get in and out of that than their most regulated port in the U.S. So there's more regulations, again, making it harder to get in and out. Again, I'm not saying right or wrong. I don't ever get into politics. This is just numbers that we're dealing with. So, and this, by the way, is the only time you'll ever hear me use the word elastic in my life. But there's a reason for it because there's an economics term called price elasticity. And you'll hear that from me, but you'll never hear me speak marketing terms ever, except for cloud hard. But other than that, you won't hear me speak a marketing term. So, and everybody knows what that is. It's simple, plain English. So what happens is now fuel costs go up. Now, because we've got an extremely low unemployment rate, because there was lots of stimuluses and things that were done, and borrowing and loans, again, I'm not saying good or bad or different. Now the unemployment rate is historically low. Of course, the labor participation rate is also low, which is not good. But so the numbers aren't as good. But because a lot of people, like last month, or was it last month, 500 million people, was it 500,000 people that dropped out of the workforce, and they basically
said, "No, I'm done.
I'm done." Wow. So they're no longer counted as unemployed. So now the people are spending more on fuel. They're going to their managers. I need more money. But the managers' costs are also up. So the only thing the companies can do is, if they can raise prices because they have what's called price elasticity, they will raise prices. Now, if they raise prices, which is what's been going on, the consumer has to pay more.
Yep.
Now, what happens? The consumer's paying more. Gas goes up. The consumer asks their company for a raise. They get a raise, but now they're in a higher tax bracket. So now they're getting more money, which is worth less than they were before.
Yep.
And the cycle continues until inflation is gone. So how do you crush inflation? Well, you raise interest rates, you raise taxes, you stop spending money, and you suck money out of the economy, which would be good if we get inflation for good reasons. But we've got war, supply chain disruptions, COVID, cutting off our fuel supply, which made us dependent upon others, who then could basically charge us anything they want. What is OPEC? It's a cartel that determines, what they should price fix are. Oh, wait, we're going to cut production to raise the rate. Oh, wait, we're going to raise the price. Raise production because the price is high. So we've given our ability to produce this product to somebody else, for better or for worse. I don't know. They can set the scene, and now we've got runaway prices. So either the Fed will keep increasing interest rates, which would be good, but there's some other economic data, which is related to the GDP growth. And then we're going to get into the real data. 2 quarters of negative GDP growth equal a recession. Oh, wait, we just had a quarter of negative GDP growth. Amazon lost $3 billion. Netflix is losing money and laying off. Target had some horrible earnings. All the big box retailers did, and they're getting crushed. So are they in a position to raise prices? Absolutely not. Do they have to chop their prices? Yes. And now what are they going to do to produce sales? Now, 2 quarters of negative GDP growth is a recession. So I guess the one thing we need to think about, and we're going to get through that data with Chris, is if we've got an 8% inflation rate and 8% GDP growth, if you suck out the inflation, it's negative growth. It's zero growth. It's just neutral. So we're going to look through those data, and we're going to get there. So now that everybody understands the macroeconomic challenges that are going on, let's parse through the data. Chris, let's talk about the inflation numbers from a consumer perspective and from a producer perspective, and what does that mean?
All right, so just to let everybody know, we're not going to be trying to do any math like what Mike just explained about
No,
the GDP and the inflation. We're not going to be balancing. We're not going to do any balancing of anything. I can balance my checkbook and that's it, but nothing else. So what we're going to be talking, we're going to just be going through singular data points and and having a discussion about the singular data points. And the main reason I'm throwing out there that we are not going to be doing math is because none of us, me, Mike, and Elonzo, are not good at math in real time.
No.
So we do not want to say something that is most likely wrong because we're mixing numbers up in our head.
Just like Sharon said, say no to math.
Right.
I had a really great approach to math in my MBA program in life. I looked for the people that love math and hated to explain the numbers, and I said, "Here, you do the math, and I'll go explain the numbers." Everybody was happy that way.
So my thinking, Mike, you asked about it. I think that's a great starting point. Starting with the inflation metrics. What the governments and businesses look at for the inflation metrics, and then I think we can go to the other data points after that.
Yes.
So the first thing that I'll bring up is the consumer price index, which is one of the two main measurements that are used to define inflation. And the consumer price index is what we pay as a consumer for our goods. And currently, the consumer price index, sorry, my notes are moving around on me. Just because I love data doesn't mean I can remember all of it. So I gotta have it in front of me. So currently, the year-to-date consumer price index is up 8.3% year-to-date. So in layman's terms, now I'm not an economist, but in layman's terms, to me, that's 8% inflation.
That's exactly what I mean. At best.
That's exactly,
At best.
At best, and we'll talk about why that might not even be accurate.
Now, one of the reasons, what I'm about to point out, and I think Mike was about to discuss, is that's not the number that you're going to see in the news.
Nope.
You're going to see a smaller number that is in the 6 range because that is the agreed upon core things that we consume. Guess what that core number does not include? Energy and food.
And
those are the main
went up like 20% last year. Fuel prices went up 40% last year. Fuel prices are up basically 150% in the last couple of years.
Right. And they specified that at the same time last year, we're paying $2,800 more on fuel. $2,800.
Okay, so going to that great metric, Elonzo. About a year ago, the average American spent $2,800 a year on fuel. Now they're spending $5,000. $5,000.
And it was only $3,800 in March.
Yes.
March, 2 months ago.
Right.
2 months ago. I've gone.
And I have an SUV. I have a Chevy Tahoe. So when I have to fill it up, it hurts every drop. It stinks.
I don't have a car anymore. I had a Nissan Pathfinder. You know what I got now? I got a scooter.
But it's smart.
I'm not talking about a little moped scooter. I'm talking about the little foot scooter that you. I am not kidding. I got rid of that sucker. I got rid of that sucker,
but I don't want to, Chris. I don't want people to think that I don't take good care of you. You're well taken care of by this company.
Oh yeah, no. My wife's got a nice car. I just don't have a car. No, but that was a personal choice because I was like, I had a nice SUV, but I'm like, I can't. No, I can't pay $100 every time I fill up the tank.
It just really hurts.
Yeah,
but before we get too far away from the consumer price index, I want to share my screen because seeing is believing and getting the point across. If it's okay with you, Mike, I'd like to share a chart of the consumer price index.
Yeah, I'd love you to share because these are official charts you're pulling and we can see the sources too. So
this is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
That's about as good as it gets.
And so let me make sure I share the right thing. All right. So
could you zoom in a little bit on that?
There we go. Okay. So this is the consumer price index and how much the percentage change over the 12-month on a rolling 12-month period. So as you can see, currently we are at 8.3. Over the past 20 years, the highest we were at was in 2008.
So we haven't been to this place for over 40 years.
Yeah. The data, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, interestingly, does not show me data from 1979 and 1980.
How convenient.
How convenient.
What some other charts do we have due?
Yes. So the so I'm glad you mentioned that. Sometimes I get too far down in my rabbit holes. So this one is a little bit more hard to wrap your head around. It's the personal consumption expenditures chart. It's the same information, just measured a different way. And what and I can't really wrap my head around it, except to know that it's showing us how fast the increase is happening, if that makes sense. So what we see here, the cost of our goods is spiking over the past year. It naturally has a natural growth rate at a steady, as you can see, for the course of a 30-year period, except in 2008, we had a slight spike. And back here in 1979, 1980.
Oh, that was a nightmarish time.
But if you look at the angle of this compared to the angle of this growth.
Wow. That is a steep climb.
And these are the two main metrics from a
There's some other good charts that were graphics there, but as you can see, this is a lot.
And this is what it's like we spend.
Yeah.
That's what we're spending. So, that's affecting people. So we're going to talk about how you can earn a lot more money and make yourself immune soon. I just want everybody to understand what's going on. Yeah. Because, when you hear a news headline, you watch one channel, you watch another channel, it's like you just look at the data, make your own decisions. That's what medical people do. I don't watch the Pfizer commercial and say, I'm going to prescribe this.
Well,
I promise you.
And one of the things that you continue to hear, and it's not inaccurate, is that consumer spending is steady and consumer spending is solid.
But we're going to talk about
what the caveat is that consumer spending is dipping into savings.
Yes.
And where did that savings
I'm glad you brought it in.
And
where did that savings come from? The past 2 years where I couldn't spend any money.
Right. Yeah.
And the government gave me money.
So the savings is coming from the following. We can see an increase in credit card debt.
Yep.
But and there's another thing where people are not counting, which is probably the most serious and risky part of the whole thing. So there's the credit card debt, there's the savings, but there's been an abundance of cash out refinance mortgages in the last few years. And that's been fueling the consumption as well. These really low interest rates. So what happens? People have a house, it's paid off, or they've lived in it, they bought it for $200, it's now worth $500 because of inflation. They suck out $400,000, put it in their bank, and then spend it. I've seen it again and again. It happened in Florida, causes massive bankruptcies. It's incredibly scary.
Yeah,
it used to be people refinance and get a 15-year mortgage or a 10-year mortgage. Now they're refinancing for 30 and 40 years and pulling more money out.
And to give you an idea of how high that refinancing situation is refinances hit a all-time high in 2021 because it was there. People could do it. They had the ability to do it. And the latest metric is that refinance applications have dropped 76% year over year. Just to give you an idea of how high and how many people were refinancing and doing exactly what you just talked about, Mike. And personal savings for the individual and families is at an all-time high as well. The amount of savings that had accumulated. So this consumer spending is staying steady, but it doesn't mean that what I'm bringing home every day is actually being what's covering that spending, because that take home pay is not going up.
It is not, no.
So,
and that's the other thing is take home pay for the average consumer has not kept up with inflation.
Yeah.
Now it's getting worse because with the Great Resignation and all this other stuff going on, now we're talking about, what's going next. So, and then we'll get to managing your career. These Amazon stores, they had 30 that nobody works at, that now they're planning several hundred of to not have employees. Now you know why. I went to a restaurant the other day, and they had this stupid thing on my table for me to pay with a credit card. By the way, I will never go to a cashierless store. I go to people. I support companies that pay people and give people jobs. I don't go to any place. And it's not that I don't like Amazon. They're the best retailer in the world. They're incredible. I just won't shop at a store that doesn't have people. It's a personal thing. But so now they're actually testing out robot waiters and waitresses at the local restaurant that I'm at. In fact, right now in Florida, I can't even get my trash picked up. I went to get a Thai massage on Sunday, and the massage therapist says, "Hey, where you live? I hear you're having trouble. They're not even having people picking up your trash." I said, "Yes, they told us they're no longer doing recycling. In fact, what they're doing in some of the local communities is they're getting rid of the trash crews altogether. They're handing out a special trash can. They're getting rid of all the trash men and women, and they're going to have a machine that's going to pick up the trash, and you can only put what goes in that bucket."
Talk about shooting yourself in the foot. Yeah.
So one of the following up on that point, you were talking about Amazon. Amazon publicly stated that their warehouses are overstaffed.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going to happen?
You know what they also recently talked about? The need to get rid of, was it 500,000 square feet of space or 5 million? It was some ridiculous.
I can't remember. Yeah.
But as they continue, when they're talking about they have more resources than they have, but are they not illustrating the fact that they're automating more and more of their services to reach consumers?
Yeah.
Or is that something that they're conveniently leaving out?
Depends on what you're reading.
And I don't want to pick on Amazon as a company. Every company's doing this.
No.
They're all doing it.
Facebook said that they're freezing hiring.
Yeah.
Not only did Facebook freeze hiring, on LinkedIn, here's what happened. People that actually had jobs that rented apartments out there in Silicon Valley got a letter. "Sorry, we're rescinding your offer. Here's a month's pay."
Yeah.
Wow.
And didn't Netflix just do a layoff?
Netflix did a massive layoff.
So what is FANG? FANG is Facebook, Amazon, Netflix. Okay, we got 3 of the FANG right there.
So Google has never made money on their cloud.
Right.
To be speaking. Amazon is financially losing money right now. Netflix is losing money and laying off. The only
We're not picking on the big ones. It's just they're the newsmakers because they're publicly traded. So this information.
They're publicly traded. That's why we have this information, because it's publicly traded.
So it's not that we're picking on them.
Right. And no, we're not. It's publicly traded information. We mention them because guess what? We love them for a lot of the great things they do. Great cloud computing services. I hate the names, but I like the product. Product's great. Just get rid of the silly names. Then again, I don't like marketing names at all. That's why we have a cloud architect career development program. It's pretty simple. It creates career development for cloud architects because we call it spade a spade.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought you had stopped. I got a delay on my end. I was going to say, so to make sure that you realize we're not trying to pick on FANG or the big boys, just based from Business News Daily, they reported that at least 29 private startups have done layoffs in the past month. So it's not just big publicly traded companies, private startups, and that includes organizations like Robinhood.
Yep.
That are facing layoffs because publicly traded companies have to answer to their stakeholders and their shareholders. Private startups have to also. They have venture capitalists. They have people that have financed them that they have to answer to. So at the end of the day, it's not just big organizations that have to make the same decisions. Everyone has to make the same decisions, just like I have to make the decisions at home about the vehicle.
Yeah.
You
We
know,
all make decisions.
Right.
I'm gonna still try and attract talent and bring better talent to our company so we can be the best product to our customers. But we follow the data, and as it stands, we're gonna lead into that. So, which people are needed in a recession? Who are those people that you can't live without? What jobs get outsourced? Well, I'm gonna kick it off.
Yeah.
And then Chris is good because Chris is and I both have unfortunately had to do layoffs in the past. And I have a strategy to approach layoffs. In big companies, I keep a little dead weight. And that way, when I have to do a layoff, I've got somebody planned, but that's neither here nor there. So,
before you get started, I'm fairly certain that we come from our experiences with layoffs come from probably two different perspectives. Yours was probably a well thought out procedure, whereas mine was very reactionary to the pandemic. So it was well thought out, but it was very quick. So
let's talk about which jobs are needed.
Yeah.
Well, in a company, you got basically two sets of people: people that bring in money and people that cost money. I'm going to say this again: people that bring in money and people that cost money. So in a down environment, who do you need? The people that bring in money? Yeah. Now, what about the people that cost money? This is where you determine who you can get rid of. I hate saying it, but it's true. Whoever's not on a critical anything is going to be laid off. So now let's think about revenue producing jobs. Sales reps or account managers. You do not let them go in a recession. You get rid of your weak ones that aren't doing the numbers and you hire new ones because they're the lifeblood of the company. Revenue. How about your solution architect, your cloud architect? Yes, they're bringing huge amounts of money into the company. Huge. Because what else? What about product sales specialists, technical account managers, sales engineer? Again, you don't lay them off. They're bringing money in. So them you need. Who else you don't lay off? The most likable people with the best attitudes, energy, and enthusiasm. Why? Because they're impossible to find. You know, how do you find a Chris? You don't. So when you find a Chris, you hold on to them. You don't let them go. It's bad times you find a way. So there's that. The attitude, the energy, enthusiasm, the most responsive people, the most people you trust. You have to think about this. If I have a new company in 5 years, who do I need to bring with me? So think about it this way. If you were going to go to battle, who would you bring with you if you can only bring 3 people? If you're in a survivor situation, who do you want with you? And that's what the business is going to look for. So what does that mean? Attitude, energy, executive presence, communication skills, emotional intelligence, empathy. After a layoff, people go. They're not happy. Morale is destroyed. So you need people that have empathy. Now, what jobs can be outsourced? How about a DevOps engineer? That's a person we're going to want. Why? Because they're an automation expert. We're not losing them. That DevOps engineer can replace 30 cloud admins. Now, the cloud admin's a configurer. Do we need that person? No. In a bad economy, we get rid of all those jobs. And here's the reason why. We don't need them. One DevOps engineer can replace 20 of them. So gone. How about software engineers? Well, who are the most critical software engineers that are the most critical people for your company? The best, the strongest, the most capable. You keep them. Now, lay off the ones you have and outsource to another company that's overseas that pays your engineers 30% of what you're used to be paying them. And they're hungry and thankful for a job. What about your maintenance people? Yeah, you know, how many of them can you get away? Now, interestingly enough, sales you need, but marketing, that one you may get away because marketing and advertising are expensive. So those kind of jobs may actually go, and sales and marketing are two sets of things.
Right. Exactly.
So, you know, there's that. So your operations people, they're expensive. Who goes? Now let's think about it this way. So let's not use Elonzo. Chow, can you pop in for 2 minutes? We're picking Chow because we love
Come on, Chow.
Okay, Chow. Chow, we love you. You're 100% secure and we can't live without you. We love you. So I just want you to think about this. Imagine I lead the company and then Chris reports to me. You report to Chris and you manage Elonzo for right now. Now you manage Elonzo and 2 other people. So you've got me, I've got Chris, and you're that intermediary person between Chris and Elonzo. Now, Chow, we love you, and Chow, we're going to keep you. But if we did a layoff, do we need that middle manager, that cushion between Elonzo and Chris? Or no, not really. We can get rid of that middle manager.
I think you can get rid of the middle.
You can get rid of the middle manager because Chris has the capability of managing Elonzo. I can't survive without Chris, but I don't need that middle manager. So middle management is the first to go as well because of those. But Chow, we love you. You're management, and we need you, and we're growing. So don't even think about that. I just put you in a ridiculous position right now, just for fun, because we love you. You've got a great smile, and I knew you would take it lightly and hearted. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Mike.
So those are the kind of things that are not there. Expense. How about problem children? Hey, I got this guy or girl. They complain to me all day long. Gone. How about the person in a meeting when I offer a project to do that hides? Gone. How about a lazy person that shows up late?
Sorry.
Well,
they usually think they're the most secure, actually. That's the funny part.
Lazy people, not so much. Who really gets saved? The smile one. Hi, everybody. How are you? It's good to see you today. The social outcasts, I hate to say it, get laid off. Now, the other times were good. There, those times where good people get laid off too. If a division is closed, you're the voice over IP person, and the company decides they're not doing voice over IP anymore. What does the hiring manager determine? Which one of these people has the agility skills? This is a good leader. This one can learn. This one's got good fundamentals. They can learn. These people, gone. But you figure out which ones you need and you keep going. So those are the kind of people. Like I said, I've been through 20 layoffs. I've never been laid off. None of my students have ever been laid off except for this one guy. But he got 6 figures more. And a week later, he had a $300,000 job. So in his case, the layoff was kind of a happy thing. He used that and he bought 2 rental properties and he did really well for himself. But that's neither here nor there. And then he went back to the same company 2 years later when the economy got better. So those are the kind of things that go on to it. So Chris, tell me who you've had a layoff, and then we're going to tell you what to do about it.
So as most of you might be aware, I come from the hospitality industry, and hotels specifically. And at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, hotels were essentially shut down completely. Nobody's staying. I was actually watching every 12 hours a hotel lose 1,000 reservations that were already on the books. Every 12 hours, 1,000 reservations were disappearing.
Oh my God.
And so this is what I was talking about earlier, Mike, is that your experience with layoffs have probably been weeks or months long processes where you're doing analysis after analysis and reviewing. And it's like, okay, now we know you probably had a dollar amount handed down from the finance department that said, we got to get to this to make our shareholders happy, blah, 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 blah. Not so much with the pandemic. When the pandemic hit, everything just disappeared.
Yeah, and I want to address this because it comes up real fast. My eyes do blink a lot. I was involved in a training incident where I couldn't walk for a period of 8 years. I spent a period of 8 hours a day of physical therapy for 8 years straight, and I finally can walk again. And as soon as I could walk again, I started this company. And yes, my eyes blink. So let's just.
And to follow up on that, his eyes blink when he gets passionate.
Yeah. It's
not when he gets exhausted or tired or anything, but when he's talking about
charged up,
that he's charged up or passionate about, that's when it happens. So when you see it, what you're hearing is good.
Yeah, sit up, pay attention, man.
Yeah. But so back to my situation with layoffs. So that situation came out of nowhere, as it did for everybody. And what Mike said is the exact case, even in hotels, even in restaurants, even at Timbuktu arrangement stores. I don't know, the bodega down the street in Manhattan. Everybody's going to take the same approach. Your revenue generating is going to be the ones that stay. That is going to most likely be your very first metric. Are they costing me, or are they bringing money in? If you're bringing money in, your role is in a better position. Your department is in a better position. After that, what we reviewed, and again, this is unlike most experiences. This with me happened in a 48-hour period. We had to make these decisions.
That's
and
amazing.
so this is not an envious position, and I dare say that this is probably not going to happen again within 100 years. Because it wasn't just my company. Hundreds of hotel companies were having to do this in a snap of a finger. But once you get past the bringing revenue in or costing me money, then you get to the, well, how much? How much are they costing? Can they bring that cost down? Or if you're at an individual one-on-one basis, it's, okay, they're costing me money, but can they eliminate that cost and be beneficial elsewhere? What are they showing me that I already know? Hey, this person, using hotels as an example, that's a housekeeper, is costing me money. I don't have anybody staying in my room, so I don't need rooms cleaned. I have to eliminate this position in a layoff. Can this individual be used somewhere else?
Yes.
And that's where Mike talked about versatility. Mike talked about a lot of things, but there's and he mentioned social outcasts, and and he said it with a small caveat, but that's a harsh way of putting it. It's not so much the social outcast as much as it is the person that's difficult to work with.
That is a nice spin off, Chris.
That's usually your social outcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you're difficult to work with, if you always, and I don't mean this in a bad way, because questioning things is good, but if you always question everything, if you're always argumentative, if you always have to be coerced or persuaded or I don't want to say bribed, but
yeah, we got to drag you kicking and screaming to do your job. Or Chris, say for instance, you might have, there's a difference between complaining, but there's also, and then there's constructive criticism. And if you bring that constructive criticism, most of the time to be a value add, I see that we have a challenge here, but I also have created a solution or can present one to you. That can be the differentiator between you and, the quote unquote person who's hard to work with.
Oh yeah. The
And
problem solver, the person that brings you a solution, not a problem. Oh, you need them.
Yeah.
Right.
And these are the things that you have to be doing all the time because you don't know when it's going to come. Nobody in the hotel industry knew that the pandemic was going to come.
Right. Who knew?
I literally used to joke that I had job security because people always needed somewhere to stay. And then all of a sudden nobody needed anywhere to stay. So so the things that we're talking about are things that you always need to be doing because that's the type of employee that you should be. And if you're the type of employee that you should be, then you're automatically going to be in a better position. I noticed that Elonzo was having some connectivity issues, so he'll be back in just a minute, I'm sure. But those are the two big things: is the cost versus revenue, and then the are they adaptable? Are they? Can I work with them? Can they be worked with? Are they performing?
Right.
Performing is a very vague term. It's sales performance, it's guest satisfaction performance, it's improvement performance. are just performing in a team. So those are the big things that I've got that were used in that unimaginable situation.
Wow.
Yeah. So I want to take something that popped in the chat box and just squash it. Abhishek Sarkar said many people can be a cloud architect. That's nonsense. Anybody that wants to be a cloud architect can be a cloud architect. We got over 100 people, if I understand correctly, hired this year. And anybody that can want, and there's lots of jobs of these. There's thousands and thousands of them. So
yeah, and I want to piggyback on that. It's also a matter of making a decision and sticking to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you want to be a cloud architect,
you have to stick to it.
If you want to be a cloud engineer, be a cloud engineer.
Yeah,
if you want to be a DevOps, be a DevOps.
And also, let's think about how many people have come through our program from different walks of life, myself included.
Yeah.
So anyone, if you got to stick to this, focus, dedication, and you take care of your business when it comes to the work, we provide the opportunity, you do the work. Like I've heard it before, the dream is free, the hustle is sold separately.
Exactly. And if someone's not dedicated to doing what they want to do, then they're not going to do it.
Yes.
And you have to be 100% dedicated to making it happen.
And I'll tell you the people that don't become cloud architects right now, those that focus on the tech, they can't do it because it's a job where you're a digital transformation specialist. But if you only focus on the tech, if you want to code, if you want to configure, that's great. You're an engineer though.
Right. Do what you want to do, and as long as you know what you want to do.
I get people that say, hey, I want to be a cloud architect. And it's like, great, we can do that. And then they're like, Mike, it's not technical enough. And I say, well, then you want to be a cloud engineer because you can't do this. So you got to be someone that can. So let's talk about the cloud architect and why that job is so good now. Let's talk about the sales engineer and why that job is so good now. But specifically the cloud architect or any architect, an enterprise architect. Why is that in demand? What's the whole point of an architect is to improve business. How do you increase sales? How do you do it? How do you determine how to cut costs out of the business? How do you do this? So the point is, all these jobs that are designed for transformation, but I don't want to finish that, that's why they're in demand. That's why. Because they're critical. And the hiring goes up for these critical, how do I save money positions in a recession? They get rid of the people that cost them money. They're looking for people that can save money. So your management consultants are going to be doing consulting. Your sales reps are going to be busy as heck hunting for deals. But those people that cost you money, we'll get back to Chris and Elonzo, they're the ones. The dream is free. The hustle isn't the work. You can't say I want a job because it pays well and not be willing to do the work. You can't be an architect and do engineering. If you do, the second you do first engineer, you miss the big picture, you destroy your customer and your name, and you're fired, your customer will not be satisfied, and it's all over. But guess what? If you love doing engineering, and I have a cloud engineering program for that reason, if you love doing engineering, it's great. We need somebody to build it. We're just going to talk about how do those engineers keep their jobs, and many of them are going to have a hard time because that's next.
Yep.
The key is, but I don't think we finished it. But when I see that kind of negativity that's completely inaccurate, we have to refocus things in reality, because that kind of negativity, I can't do something, people can't do something. That's why they never achieve anything, because they psych themselves out before they do anything. And when I see that kind of toxic thinking, I don't want anybody to get that, because it's going to cost them their life, their dreams, and all the good things that can occur.
Yep, I agree. And Elonzo, I'm going to hand it off to you in just a second, but I want to end. Well, I don't know if end is the right way because this is Mike's show, but I want to close out. I want to attempt to close out that part by saying, it's one thing if you don't think you can do it, or you don't have the discipline to do it, or you're not. You may not be sure. So, I mean, until you're sure, that's fine. It's one thing, but it's not okay to say other people can't, because that's just not the case. So that's another reason why I'm glad that we stopped, because that was a general statement for an entire community of people. That's not
broad brush.
Yeah. It's just a broad.
We can't let people not achieve the careers, not achieve success because of somebody's negative thinking.
Yeah.
If somebody doesn't believe in themselves, that's okay. They don't have to believe in themselves. Now, Until that person believes in themselves, they're not going to achieve the kind of success they can if they truly believe in themselves. And that's the key. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody will believe in you. I'm not going to hire somebody that doesn't believe in themselves. I'm never going to meet with somebody that doesn't believe in themselves. I'm going to see it in their eye and say, no, thank you.
Yeah. So,
and there's not a shortage of supply and demand problem. There's no supply and demand problem at all.
There's a shortage of supply.
And there's no shortage either.
I'm just saying, there's a disconnect is what it is.
There's a major disconnect between the reality there.
Yeah, that's what the problem is, that there's a disconnect between the demand and the supply. And
that's why the salary is so high.
Yeah.
There's huge demand and no supply.
Yeah. So to get back to what we were talking about, so I can't, other than going into specifics about the specific company and the specific roles and the specific positions and the specific situations, that we talked about the two main criteria that organizations look at when deciding how to proceed with the layoff.
Yeah.
Cost and revenue of that position or that entire department, because your department may be an entirely revenue generating department, so you may not ever get touched.
Exactly.
Right.
Or your department might be a cost generating department, but they can't get rid of everybody in that department, so they're gonna have to keep some people. So that's where that second layer that I was talking about comes in. But Elonzo, I want to hear from you, and I think Mike said so as well, about how do you, as an individual, what are some things that you can do? And then I'm going to use my data points that I found in research to support what you're going to say, because I'm pretty sure you're going to say what I found in my research.
More than likely, Chris, I am. So Mike and Chris illustrated wonderful data points, wonderful experience based on what they've had to do, based on what they've experienced. But what I want to do is also showcase what can you do to offset or provide a resistant layer to how you can reduce that chance of being the one that they call to the office for reduced resourcing cost, or RIF, or reduction in force. One of the things that, as an experienced person, as well as what I've seen, is that an employee will definitely keep their chair if you provide solutions. If you're the person who's able to say, you know what, I found a way to reduce costs, or I see costs that we're hemorrhaging money out the door, don't let that conversation just stop there. They probably already have identified that as well. They'll probably say, okay, yeah, so what? But the person that sticks out is the one that creates that solution, or they say that I've seen a reduction, or rather an increase of cost. I have seen a way where we can reduce this cost by doing X, Y, and Z, by supplementing this technology that does the same thing as what that pre-existing technology can do within that architecture, but at half the cost. It's those type of incremental wins that you can see and that you can address for your team lead and your overall organization, that they will so much and increasingly appreciate you for. You're going to be the one that says, not only are they making money for me, but they're also helping me to reduce the overall cost of the organization. You think about that type of value, and your place in the organization will increase. Your value will increase for that. They're not going to want to let you go. You're not going to be just someone who's getting a check and just coming in and showing up for work and provide. They're seeing that as just nothing but a cost. But when you're adding that type of valuation, it is so increasingly important. And say, for instance, and there's underpinnings to providing those solutions. Say, for instance, I just said you're finding opportunities to reduce the overall operative cost for the organization. That's about paying attention. That's attention to detail. That's about showcasing that I know enough about the company to be able to share details, be able to share that type of understanding about what it takes to keep this operation going. I can get down to the minutiae of the operation and say, this is what it takes. Now, another thing that I believe would be awesome is that although people make mistakes, if you're going to make mistakes, try to minimize them, to minimize those mistakes, or what we can call failing up. Is I made a mistake, but I'm learning from it, and I'm also creating valuation based on those mistakes that I've made. There's never been a time where I've made a mistake that I didn't learn from, and that not only did I bring an idea about how I can fix that, I can also have a track record, or I can provide valuation financially, or quality or quantitative research on how I've changed and improved based on my mistake. So it's those type of things that you need to look for. Also, you need to do what Mike expounded on, is being a supportive team leader. You have tons of people. We're all in the same boat. We all have an objective to fulfill. We all have goals, metrics. We got to use certain benchmarks to maintain or increase our goals and objectives as an organization, as a department. So if there's something going on in your department, say for instance, Chris or Mike, they need support, and like, okay, we got an opportunity here. It's going to take us more time. It's going to we're going to have to dig in deep. We're going to have to spend all evening focusing on this objective, 2-3 in the morning to get it done. Are you going to be the person to say, I don't feel like it? Because you know this opportunity could make or break the company, or it can increase the opportunity for the organization exponentially. Are you going to be that person that says, I got plans? Or are you going to say to that person, I don't feel like it, you do the work, or you don't pick up your share of the slack to get things done? Those are the type of things that employers look for. They look for those who are like, okay, they're a team player. They're willing to ruck up, get some things done, take on more of their share than what they're expected to do, so that we, not themselves, can win as an organization. So another thing that I think about is organizational culture. When a company is focused on improving or trying to regulate, maintain, survive, or thrive in, say, for instance, the economy that we see today, or in a recession type environment that we had in 07 or 08, they focus on people who do their best job, people who are focused on those solutions, people who are owning their mistakes, people who are building those relationships, especially as a cloud architect. When during that recession, that times are tough, perhaps maybe client opportunities for new client market share may not be as prevalent as it normally would be. It's those type of people who have that emotional intelligence, have the social acumen, have the business acumen, capability, experience, all these things where they're able to talk to the client, draw in those opportunities, and generate, no matter how small the revenue is, but they're bringing money in nonetheless. Who do you think they're going to want to keep on the team? Because they know, for one, that if you can thrive and still provide valuation and generate more income in those financial resistant headwinds that we normally would have in a recession, imagine how well you can do in a thriving economy. They keep those things in mind, and they want to keep those type of people on their team. Another thing is that, just become an expert at your job. Cloud architecture. Okay. We're not engineers. We're not on the command line. We don't know. We're not making directories. We're not initiating Terraform. We're not doing any of the things engineers do. Valuable as it is, but you need to focus on your job. Why did they hire you to do the job? Come up with opportunities to own that job. Even more so, come up with ways where you can say, okay, I'm an architect, but also I can take on more responsibilities as an architect. I can still bring in more valuation, come up with different ideas, and all of it still speaks back to providing those solutions. So it's those type of things that I really believe is that by using your best effort, by creating solutions, by attention to detail, by not making mistakes, or at least mitigating those mistakes where you can, as quickly as you make those mistakes, you can fix them. These are the type of things that people look for to be resistant in this economy, to be able to be a value add for the organization, and to overall provide a wonderful presence. But one thing I forgot as well to say is that you have to have a positive attitude, rain or shine, hard work or not. When things are tough, I want a smile on your face. Say something positive. Don't say, oh, this sucks. Oh, this is this. Oh, this is that.
Okay, since you already mentioned the word sucks, use the military embrace. Embrace
Sorry,
it.
yeah.
Okay, what's the military embrace? What's the
I
seal?
was going to say, you already said ruck up earlier, so you might as well say embrace.
You might as well say
yeah,
it.
embrace the suck. You know what? Embrace the suck. And I get so carried away sometimes. I need a muscle sometimes, but the passion is there. Is that when we want you all to succeed, and having these type of conversations is what's important, and being able to have sometimes the raw, sometimes the unscheduled might come out, but having the positive attitude that you need in any type of environment, austere, positive, negative, whether you are a part of a whole entire team, or rather the whole team is resting on you to perform. Stay positive, because these are the type of things that matter.
Yeah, and if you're an architect and you learn Python, I promise you won't be working soon.
Yeah.
If you're an engineer, great, but do not learn Python. If you're an architect, or your replacement will thank you for their great job.
Right.
So that's learning all the skills that don't matter.
Right. Being versatile is one thing, but being versatile in something that can be outsourced and automated,
not your skill.
my hair is going crazy.
Yeah.
Sorry, I saw that. I'm
not
like,
the way to do it. So I remember, and then Chris is going to get into the data. I joined a company. There was 13 layoffs at this company in like 3 years. I was there. I met the sales guy that I was supposed to know. Never met him after that. Met a few people, and I was hired as a consulting systems architect. So I fly to Canada, a place called Canada, which is in Ottawa. And I'm there, and I'm doing a proof of concept with an extremely large tech company over there to design a video solution for a very large telephone company. And while I was there testing the solution, the company announced a 30% layoff. Now, huge. And what they said in the layoff announcement, it was like, we used to be able to sell $5 million easier than we can sell 50,000 now. It was when the internet boom came to a crashing end. And you know what? Something happened. I got a call from my manager. I won't say my manager's name, but he was a master sergeant from the Marine Corps. I loved the guy. We're friends 20 years later. He wasn't soft. He wasn't cuddly, but he was a Marine. And he calls me up and he says, "Gibbs, I know you saw the layoff information. You're safe." I'm like, huh?
Wow.
He says, "You generate money." He said, "You're up here on this proof of concept. If it works, it's 30% of the revenue for the entire company." And he said, "It's not working right now. And you're there 16, 18 hours a day. You're giving me 3 status calls per day. You've called the CEO. You've called the EVP of software engineering to write new BGP code and new PIM code. You've called the COO and all the teams working." He said, "I have never seen a consulting system architect that knew how to do that so fast. So you are safe." He meant it. Now, here's the thing. They did layoff after layoff. And you know what I did with each layoff? I found the people that were my close circle and I coached them. I coached them on soft skills, leadership skills, sales skills, executive presence. My inner circle was safe. They were never laid off. When I left that company to join Cisco, which was the best thing I ever did, and I love Cisco, they were saying, "What can I buy you to stay?" And they were laying off constantly. Clearly. But, emotional intelligence is the best predictor of your long-term career success, the most critical thing. How do you control your emotions and how do you manage emotions? So, in a crisis, who do you want? Do you want Elonzo by your side? "Hey, Elonzo, we're going to go ruck through the desert. We're going to both put on 20 pounds of body armor. Then we're going to carry an 80-pound ruck. We're going to put on ugly clothes, and we're going to go ruck for the next 30 kilometers. Whether you like it or not. You going to do it with me?"
When you're ready to roll, brother.
Okay, that's the thing. Is Elonzo going? No, not at all, because I can depend on him. Now, Elonzo, now, you've not had this background. "Hey, Elonzo, we're going to do a 30-kilometer ruck with 200 pounds on. You excited?"
Not excited, but you'll never know it, because I'm here for the long haul, and I'm going to provide the positivity.
Now I'll be the guy I lay off. "Hey, Elonzo, I've got this 30-kilometer ruck. Now, when we do this, we're going to get to a special tower. There's a guy waiting for us on this tower to fix something. We need to explain to him how to fix this tower. It's going to be 130 degrees. We're going to be able to carry a few gallons, but that's it. But we got to get there. You coming with me?"
Still rolling.
Okay, well, you're supposed to be the guy I fire.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so positive.
We're too positive.
It's indoctrination, man. That's
Yeah,
how
that's the key. We can't
built the
even
role.
fake it. It's funny.
Right.
I meant to hire a Green Beret for a mental toughness class. We're running through a parking lot. I sense danger. I grab him, put him behind me. And he grabs me and puts him behind him. And I said, I moved you aside because it was dangerous. And he said, that's why I put you behind me. Because we were seeing the same thing. But you can't even undo it. You can't even undo it. So thank you, Elonzo. So we've gotten to the point. So Chris, did you have some more numbers? If not, I'm going to talk them into the
I got all kinds of numbers. You know me.
Let's get them. I want to hear these numbers.
That's what I live for.
Talk about some numbers a little bit. Let's add some meat to this, and then I'm going to give the career advice, and I'm going to tell you how do you survive. If you're an engineer, how do you survive?
Yeah.
If you're an architect, good. And what are those? I call them career agility skills, so then you can always move. But I got to tell you one thing: it all starts with attitude.
So I've got some data points, and then I also have some I guess you would call them tip list collected from the internet from various sources, and not just some rando off the internet. I'm talking about like Forbes.
Forbes actually has a good article on what to do.
Wall Street Watchdog, stuff like that. People that actually make money by doing this. So the first thing that I want to point out is, so I don't have specific numbers about that supply and demand issue that we were talking about for architects, but I can tell you this: there are 11.5 million job openings right now in America. 11.5 open positions, and 5.9 million searching for jobs. So that's 612. So half as many people to fill the positions as there are positions that are open. So there's a supply issue just the opposite way, not the number of jobs, but the number of people to fill the jobs.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't have the exact numbers for the architect positions or the engineer positions, but it's every role in the entire country. There's not enough people to fill the roles.
Right.
Period.
And
So
tech and healthcare are some of the most critical places.
Say that again?
Tech and healthcare are some of the most critical places.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, it may not be an exactly 1-to-2 ratio in every position, but every industry, there's not enough people to fill the roles. So,
and think about, guys, the ones who have matriculated through the course, they're almost ready to start interviewing for jobs, and you think about putting your name out there and you're saying you're open for work in LinkedIn. Think about how many requests that you're getting. And that's only a fraction of what other people are getting all over the country. So you think about those type of metrics.
Last Friday in class, we announced 5 people that got hired. And on Saturday, a 6th of our students got hired. And most of them, well, at least 3 of them didn't have any cloud architect or engineering or tech experience whatsoever. And they all got hired as cloud architects, including by big banks and cloud providers and such. So again, I don't believe in entry-level jobs. I believe in train for the job you want, get the job you desire.
And those salaries that they're going through based on the information and data that we receive are pretty spot on.
Yeah. Exactly. So there's something popping up and it's like, as an architect, do I get my data from tools? I get nothing from tools. I have everything that I do as an architect is I solve customer business problems. I have to know what that customer's problem is in order to solve it. An automated tool can't give me that. It's meaningless to me, an automated tool. Tools, the customer's balance sheet matters to me. Their financial statements matter to me. Their business goals matters to me.
But you're not using any technology to get the financial data.
No, of course
they give it to you. They
give it to me.
They literally hand it to you.
Yeah. They give it to me. Now, I might look, hey, do we need some big data scientist person to analyze data to make better business decisions for that business? That might be part of my solution, but I can't get my data from that. I can't use automated tools. I need to solve the customer's problem. I need to innovate. And innovation is not about data. It's about what's the customer trying to do. So start with the customer. What's your business goals, business pain points, business challenges? Okay, how can we solve it? What's the end state? What's the design? What's the business need to look like? people, process, and technology. It's not just tech. And then going back, what technology solutions do I need? What new processes do I need? What new workflows do I need? I can't get that from automated tools.
Yeah.
I get that from interviewing the CEO, interviewing the CIO, the CTO, sitting down on the floor, watching what employees do, communicating to the management, looking what industry analysts are saying, looking at economic data, and then making recommendations. I can't automate this at all.
I want to give everybody a heads up. You guys may lose me. We're in a really, really bad thunderstorm that came out of nowhere.
That's Florida.
Yeah. I mean, no, it's Tampa Bay. Like, Tampa, the word Tampa is a Native American word for lightning.
Oh, wow.
It's like the Tampa Bay region is like the worst for lightning storms.
I was really watching. Normally when we have our conversations, Chris, it's always sunshine coming out of that window, and it looks like it's like 9 o'clock at night.
Oh yeah. No, it's
at least your situation is not as bad as mine. Well, not only do you get bad weather in South Florida, but I have a door open in my house right now because my cat was crying every time I shut the door. So I literally have my sliding glass doors completely open for the cat to come in and out. So I don't even know what I'm going to find when I get downstairs later.
I want to move on from my numerical data to some things that I came across in research and preparation for this.
Yeah, go through it, and then let me talk about optimizing careers because I know.
So there's a couple of things that I want to point out, and the and so this first one is the types of employees that are affected by a layoff, and there's a top 10 list, and I'm just gonna run down the list. This is from Wall Street Watchdog. So it's not a Forbes, but it's not a Reddit. It's it's kind of there in between. But I love the simplicity of this list. So I'm just gonna run down the list. Number 1, the positions ripe for outsourcing.
Software engineering.
Yep, those that can be outsourced or automated. Gone. Employees and so when I go down this list, I want everyone to think about what Elonzo was talking about. Number 2, employees who refuse to learn new skills. Number 3, the consummate slacker. Number 4, the employee who embarrasses their boss. Number 5, the person who costs too much. Number 6, the coworker who doesn't fit with office culture. Mike mentioned the social outcast. Like I said, Mike's terminology was a little harsh, but I like it. I mean, it got straight to the point. Number 7, the low performer. And again, as I said earlier, performer can be many metrics. It's not just a singular sales satisfaction. It's a performance can be any metric that is measured. Metric that is measured. I think that's kind of a redundant thing. Yeah, metrics that are measured. Number 8, the sneak. So dishonest, kind of weaseling their way around the office. Number 9, the people unnecessary for business operations. And number 10, and this is the top 10. So this is the least concerned person or the least concerned item. Number 10, the tenured person. Mm-hmm. So I found that interesting that at least 7 or 8 of those I think Elonzo hit on when he was talking about what someone can do or not do if you're looking at it from the perspective of this list. So Elonzo already talked about it, so I want to see if Mike might have anything to add to that. And I got another list after this that I think Mike will be able to build on for the actual positions.
No, and I really want to make that clear. It's really related to, do you like the person? Are they adding value? Are they increasing sales? Truthfully, if I had a guy or a girl, let's say I hired this girl and she's 25 years old. I hired to be an cloud engineer, and she was the worst engineer on my team. like literally knew nothing. If this woman was able to bring out the best in 10 of my engineers, and she made my engineers do 3 times more than they did without her, she'd be the most valuable person on my team because she'd raise the productivity by 300%. I'd lose one of my best engineers before I'd lose that person. Why? Because she's the secret to my long-term success. It's attitude. So I won't have anybody with any degree of negativity on my team. First, I'll talk to them. Secondly, I'll see if they want to see their doctor, a psychologist, et cetera, to get rid of their anxiety and depression. And, but if someone's not going to be, if they're going to be miserable and grumpy, they destroy your company. Right. They destroy the work ethic and the morale of everybody.
Yeah.
Remember, we're humans. We're not numbers. We're humans. But Chris, you were going to say something.
Yeah, but Air asked a question that I want to address really fast because this is a very important distinction.
Yeah.
So, hey, Chris and team, you mentioned the person that does not fit in with the culture, but how does this differ from diversity, equity, and inclusion? Suppose someone does not fit due to their culture. So what we're talking about there is, are you friendly with your employees?
Yeah.
Do you get along with people in the office? Do you interact with others at work? Are you hard to work with? That's what we're that's what's meant by those that don't fit the culture.
Right. It's not where you're from, but it's how you include yourself and how you exist within the corporate culture.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with ethnicity or background. That's completely irrelevant. But you know what? Look at me. I don't go to work eating normal food. I either bring Jamaican food with me or I bring Greek food. So, when regular kids go to school and they eat ham and cheese sandwiches or, with peanut butter and jelly, I've got a souvlaki. It's just me. So,
Jamaican food, Indian food, Middle Eastern food, I eat it all.
Well, I mean, if you want to take this, a microcosm of this right here, I'm just going to do this right now. Chow, welcome back.
Come on, Chow.
You have me, a guy from Mississippi. You have Mike, a Greek from Philadelphia. You have Elonzo, an African-American from Texas. And you have Chow, a Vietnamese who immigrated to Texas. Our office culture is not defined by any 4 of those.
No. And we have Leo, who's in Brazil. We have Eddie in Cameroon, Africa. We're really lucky.
But our company culture has nothing to do with any one of those things that I just mentioned.
Care about your positivity and your performance and how you can add valuation to the team and organization as a whole. Those are the important.
Exactly what he just said. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about the culture. We're not talking about Chow's personal culture or her background, or Mike's culture or background, or my Mississippi backwoods swamp, culture. we're talking about the office culture and what we create in, for our example, Go Cloud Careers. So that's what we're talking about.
That's what we're talking about. And now I can finally understand what's going on with one of the comments. It's not a cloud architect. It's not an enterprise architect that's focused on the big picture. It's an application architect that's got one little thing that they're focused on. See, that's okay. You can get involved in that automation and statistics when you're focusing on one thing. But when you've got a whole business to deal, you've got to deal with the applications, the network, the data center, the security, the authentication, and how to make the business make more money. Then we don't get involved in numbers and statistics. We speak at the CEO level. So I'm trying to sell $1 billion.
I actually wanted to ask them earlier if they were interested in an application or data architect role. But it makes more sense now.
If we tried that, we'd be escorted out of the room in the first 10 minutes. But guess what? For a data scientist or a data architect, that would be critical. But it depends on how niche down you are. But as a cloud architect, we've got to focus on the big picture. How do we solve business problems? And it can't be focused on an application, numbers out of an application, an auto-generated anything. It's got to be financial sheet, CEO, etc., because we're dealing with the big picture. But for the application, it makes total sense.
And it looks like Vash or Raj asked what the first one was in that list. And the first one that I gave was the positions ripe for outsourcing.
So the Python developer.
Yeah.
The cloud admin that can work in any place in the world.
Yeah.
The Java programmer.
Yep. So I've got another list for us to bookend this before we get into questions. And it comes from the opposite perspective. The first list was what roles are most likely to be affected. The next list comes from Forbes and is the 16 steps every tech professional can take to recession-proof their career. And I like this.
I'm going to drop that link in there for the crew.
Say that again.
I'm going to drop that link in for the crew.
Good,
yeah, definitely. And I'm
that.
going to drop the other one. Oh no, I'm not. Yeah, I am. Here we go. I can find it. So the thing that I like about this 16, this one from, Elonzo just put the Forbes list, and I just put the Wall Street Watchdog list. They're two separate lists, but the Wall Street Watchdog was the one that I went over previously of the positions most likely to be affected, or the people most likely to be affected. This list that I'm going to go over now, I really like, because when I was going through the list, I noticed a lot of things that we talk about a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
interesting.
I thought it was pretty apropos. So let me pull this up.
You know why we use that magic list? Because it's the stuff that employers love the people so much, they're willing to hire people with no experience. That's why we use it as part of our grooming process.
So I thought it was really funny because, of course, this is not our list. This is Forbes' list.
Yeah.
And this was published. This was published in 2020, but it's still appropriate.
Still relevant. Yeah.
Totally relevant. 2020 is when the big tech started stuff problems. So yeah.
So the number one thing that someone can do to recession-proof their career, according to Forbes, master cloud-based skills. Well, you're in the right place for that. But we'll take that a step further. Obviously, you want to you make sure that you have that focused on a specific role. Don't just go out there and learn about every single cloud-based skill that you can. The next one is join industry groups or network. So improve your social media presence. Is that what I'm hearing there?
Build your brand.
Yeah, build a brand. Number 3, keep learning.
Don't we say get better every day?
Where do you get all these skills from, Mike? Chris, where can we find this?
Right. Number 4, reflect on your strengths and weaknesses.
Don't we make every student not only think about what they're good at and bad at, but ask their peers to evaluate them as well, so they know honest what to be better at? Wonder why we do that. Why this has been so successful of our people not getting laid off.
Yep. Number 5, gauge the risk of each career decision.
Where we talk about making an analysis, plan your future, look at what's going on financially, look at what you should do and where you want to be 5 years from now, and why are we teaching those skills? So, Chris, keep going.
Yeah.
I love this. There's something about our program.
People want to know, why do I have to worry about what do I want to do and what career development and SWOT analysis? Why do I have to do that before I can do any labs?
That's true. Before we let anybody touch tech, we make them build a career plan that we optimize. Because we want to make sure, out like Almighty said, he did it on the first day.
Yep. Number 6, learn to be adaptable.
Oh, wait. Isn't that agility things that we're talking about? And having strong fundamentals so you can learn one thing or another in 24 hours notice? Why do I focus so much on the network and the data center? Here's the reason. Everything is based on that. So the next time I get sent to Australia and I have to learn all that I need to on the plane, got the fundamentals to do it.
Number 7, upgrade your technological and management expertise.
Business acumen, leadership capabilities. Keep going.
Number 8, stay curious.
Yes.
Energy, enthusiasm, and learning.
Yep.
Never
Number 9,
be satisfied. Keep going. I'm just hyped about it.
Yeah, like I said, when I was reading this, I'm just like, boom, check. Like it's like somebody just went through our curriculum. Number 9, stay up to date on industry trends and search for new use cases.
Oh, wait.
No.
Weren't we the other day talking about blockchain and healthcare? and we didn't get deep into tech, but we started to talk about how you could use it.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's a reason for that.
Now, this one, slightly outside our wheelhouse. Again,
okay.
this is
Okay.
making sure that you're recession proof. 10, look outside the tech industry.
Interesting.
So I'm gonna extrapolate that one to don't have blinders.
Yeah.
Don't be too. You got to be aware of what else is out there.
Yeah, don't have your blinders. So I'm an architect, right? I've got these agility skills. People call me, Mike, would you like to be a management consultant at this Big Four consulting company? And they say, architects are consultants. Whether you make a cloud architecture or a business architecture, it's the same thing.
Yep.
So yeah, it's part of the agility.
Exactly. It's the same. If we could extrapolate that to me,
Yeah.
look outside the hospitality industry.
Chris has a huge operations thing.
Yep.
Exactly. So
I needed somebody with a great operations background. Guess what? The fact that I have somebody outside of tech that thinks differently than me enables me to think very better because I'm a CEO. You start talking numbers and statistics to a CEO, they escort you out of the room. Your replacement thanks you for the new job because you got fired. But there's going to be some functional and analytical person on that team that wants those numbers. And then you got to send your calculator person to that person.
Yep. All right. So we're only on number 11, which is look for new ways to deliver value. Huh.
We were just talking about
creativity, innovation.
All right.
Yes.
Creativity, innovation. Number 12 kind of goes back to number 2. Help people in your network.
Do something for your teammate without expecting anything in return. How can you build them up? How can you make them stronger? How can you create a energy in them and share what you know so that they can be better?
Yep. Number 13, building on that network. Make and maintain professional connections.
Wait, professional connections, networking, your company, outside of your company, leverage LinkedIn, build your network. They can help you get new jobs.
Number 14, build skills that drive transformations.
So focus on the architecture skills, not the engineering. Why do you think I make sure my architects know how to design and not do somebody else's job and transform? And we spend so much time on business and economics and leadership skills and sales skills because that's the goal. We're trying to create recession-proof people, not people that are first to go.
Yeah.
Number 15, develop a can-do attitude.
Positivity. Even like, say, for instance, I'm not trying to, and I know Mike was illustrating the negative side of what not to do. I don't know how. I won't agree to it. I know what he's trying to do. And it's that stay positive. Don't say you're going to fail. Don't say you can't. Don't say any of that stuff. Stay focused on what you can do and knock it out and don't quit. Never quit. Never give in to what the person is next to you, to the person to the left, to the person to the right. Stay focused, stay positive, stay like, okay, as positive as you are about, I'm never giving up. I'm going to be a cloud architect. I'm going to be a cloud engineer. That mentality doesn't stop when you reach your goal. There's other goals that are going to be applicable to that, to stay focused and say, I can do anything that this company needs me to do, and I will be a solution provider.
Yep. So the last one that I've got is build up your people skills.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's all about people. This whole career is about people, except for someone that thinks they're going to have an architect job where they're going to code and configure all day. I promise you they won't, and if they actually are unlucky enough to find that job, it'll be a low-paid job and they'll never get anywhere because the customer's looking for transformation. So the architects, real architects, not architects that try and do engineering on the side. That's not a real architect. That's not a digital transformation specialist. That's an engineer. And I love engineers, but that person is not safe. They're not bringing in money. They're not focused on the right things. They are out of there. And it's really sad because that person could be quite good. So what are you going to see what goes on? The leadership, the good attitude. So what do you do about it? So let's think about this, and let's think about in your company, right? Every company has team meetings. So dress better than the rest of your team. Did you know, according to Harvard, 55% of communications, 55% is what we look like when we say something, 38% is what we sound like when we say something, and 7% is the actual content. So master that, and you're automatically basically 13 times better than the rest of your peers. So there's that. Now in these meetings, there's going to be projects that are given out. So I'm going to give you a choice, Elonzo. Elonzo, I need you to do this critical project with the country. It's going to be for the U.S. government. It's worth $1 billion, and it's going to be a pain and whatever. Now, Elonzo, you can meet with this customer. They're in Jamaica, which is my favorite place to go in the world. It's worth $100,000, but you get to be in Jamaica for 2 weeks. The economy's bad. Which one are you volunteering for, Elonzo?
Give me the tough stuff anytime.
Yeah, so the $1 billion thing or this huge annoying thing, you're a critical part of that. Can I get rid of you? Should I get rid of you? No, I can't. I can't afford to. Not as much as I love Jamaica. And mind you, I cook Jamaican food. I love it. I listen to reggae. Everybody that knows me knows that I'm probably unofficially Jamaican. I mean, with the reggae, you come to my house, there's Bammy, there's jerk spice, there's Caribbean curries. I've even had some oxtail, which I haven't figured out how to cook yet, that I just got the other day. So you name it. But, here's the thing. You don't take that low pay. You don't take the fun one, because when that project's over, where are you going to go? So, kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Volunteer for the critical stuff. Now, if you've got a skill, a good skill, maybe you're a BGP guruji, or you're a multicast person, or you're an expert on something that's valuable for the company. Do the exact opposite of what other people do. Some people are worried about their skill and they hold it tight. No. Here's what you need to do. You need to tell your manager, I know times are getting tough. Can I raise the level of the expertise and teach people so if things get bad, you've got a more diverse, better team? You don't fire that person. Ever, because they're making your team better. Now you got 2 people on a project. They don't work together. One of those people is going, if not both of them, because there's problem children. You can't manage people without a good attitude. And as a manager, I'm concerned that the job gets done. So what do managers want? People that are capable, people we can trust, people that are energetic, enthusiastic, and passionate about doing the work. Someone that brings out the best in others, that's emotionally intelligent. This is our dream wish list. Someone that's a team player and someone that's willing to go above and beyond. So the person with the negativity that's on their own, gone, because they're not contributing to the family. I want a family. I want happy, positive people, because after the layoff, everybody's going to be sad. And if I've got a negative person, they're going to be like cancer and they're going to root through that company. So it doesn't matter how good the negative person's skills are, they're still gone. So the person that speaks better, more likely, the person that knows how to sell. Chris, right now you're in back engineering, but your skills are good, your people skills are good. Would you be willing to be on the sales team so I can find a position for you?
Oh, yes. If it means not going home and not having any paycheck is the other option, then yes, I'd love to.
So Chris will take a new role. A year later, the economy is good. We can move Chris back to whatever role he wants, but it's better that than being laid off.
Yep.
That's another example of elasticity that we accept as well.
Yeah, and that's to provide a further example. I talked about earlier in the hotels. I specifically said salespeople were not eliminated, while others were. But those salespeople couldn't sell. Like, they literally couldn't sell. So they were given the opportunity to work in other areas until the opportunity presented itself for them to begin selling again. And that's just a real life example. One of the directors of sales at our company started working at the front desk because even though it wasn't 100% occupancy anymore, and it was only 10% occupancy, you still had to have somebody checking people in. So the salesperson was working the front desk. Adaptability, agility, because their role was important enough to keep around.
Yeah. I had the one job that had 13 layoffs. I was there as a consulting systems architect. The one guy that was an expert on multicast that would consult to all the other sales engineers and architects. It was great. They did a layoff. I had a new title, systems engineer. And my manager says, look, this is the only place we could put you. So I was a regular systems engineer. Now, I thought I was doing an engineer. My manager says, guess what? Now you get commission. I'm like, wait, so I didn't get laid off and now I get 25% commission? This is okay. Now, here's the thing. I tried to be a sales engineer. I went on that first sales engineer call and I got a call from the CEO and they said, Mike, we've got a project. It's the biggest project in the whole company. And it's IP multicast video. I need you to go to Dubai tomorrow. And I was like, okay. So I said to the sales rep, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And he said, the CEO called you. We'll figure it out. I went there. I did the same job as the architect, and because the company needed me to. And then when the company was more financially successful, they moved me back to the same job. But I didn't get laid off, and that's the thing.
Versatility, adaptivity, the willingness to do the job and do whatever your needs are for the company, putting yourself second to the needs of the organization and being a team player.
Okay. Chow, we can't have anybody calling anybody useless ever or say somebody's useless. So please address that immediately. Address it immediately.
Yeah, I just took care of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's jargon that we do not adhere to.
It's jargon we don't adhere to. No one's useless. And we can't have people that don't understand the industry, don't understand what I do, saying negative things to others. My apologies for however that happened. I can't control who joins via YouTube, but we need to focus on helping people build their careers in rough times, not call other people negative terminologies. And I don't know who was the negative guy or girl, but we can't have that.
Yeah. So there's a comment from earlier in the show that I wanted to bring up.
Sure.
Let me see. Here we go. So, is working for local, state, or federal government a safe bet during the recession? And I know this is asked because it's a myth out there that government, once you get a government job, you're set for life.
Well, here's the thing. Government jobs are more stable, but they also pay, 1/3 to 1/2 what the civilian jobs are. So you've got a choice. You can take one of these jobs. Yes, they are more stable, but they pay much less in aggregate. So that's a decision that somebody has to make.
And let's remember that when they ran out of money to operate the government, guess who they put on furlough first?
Yep.
Government and all the workers. You still had a job, you just weren't getting paid. So the difference between being employed and not knowing you're going to get a paycheck versus being unemployed and not having a paycheck.
And then there's the other side of it, a $90,000 salary versus a $300,000 salary. And then there's the travel element. In one case, you're in the Best Western with the government rate. In another case, you're at the Hyatt, and you're not on government rate foods. You can order your steak, your good wine, your scotch, whatever you like. So there's both good and sides of it. We need good people in the government. We critically need them. So great. But finance-wise, it's much more lucrative not to be in a government.
Yeah, private sector is better.
Private sector generally pays a lot more. Some people work in the government, get their start and get out of there. And some people just stick around because they like it and they love the security. There's no right or wrong or indifferent. You got to do what makes you happy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Vaj just asked a question. I can't find it quick enough to put it up, but we can adjust it real fast. If we take advantage of the 30% discount now and pay now, but want to start the course in 4 to 5 months later, can we do it?
Of course they can.
Yes.
We don't care.
Yeah.
All we care is that our students get hired. That's not relevant to us.
Yeah, and it's self-paced. It's like we want you to be a part of the community as quickly as possible, but if it doesn't work for you, we're not going to kick you out.
No.
No.
I've had people that couldn't start for 5 months, 6 months. We don't care. They start. We just want them to get hired in the end. I don't care about anything other than my students getting hired. Well, that's not true. I care that we're a family. I care that everybody's nice and respectful to each other. That's about the only thing I won't tolerate is people that disrespect my students because they're my family.
Oh. Now, there is a caveat to this. If you don't start immediately, let us know when you do start. Reach out and say, hey, I enrolled back in, May, but I wasn't able to start until now. That way, if something has changed, like, for example, we have a new version of our program that we launched in, was it March or April? I can't remember. Somebody enrolled in December, but they weren't able to start until a couple of weeks ago. So they reached out and I said, okay, let me get you in the new version since you never started.
Yes.
In the version in December, let me get you in the new one so that you just start on the brand new one.
Exactly.
So it's important that if you do enroll now, that you when you do start, whether it's next week or, well, next week you don't have to notify us, but if it's next month or if it's 5 months from now, reach out and say, hey, I enrolled in May, but I wasn't able to start.
Welcome
anything that I need to know, anything that's changed. Maybe the class times have changed. Yeah. Maybe Mike has taken on a new cat that requires him not being able to teach classes.
I do love my cat.
He teaches classes now, So that's the only caveat is if you do purchase now and start at a later time, just reach out.
Just let us know, because if we have anything newer or more modern, we'll just give you the newest one because you already bought it. It's not like there's any charges later. It's just, and also we give you a year in the program once you start. So nobody needs a year, but just tell us when you start. We'd love to work with you.
Yeah, whether it's now or later, we always roll out the welcome mat for you.
Always.
And we want to give you the best experience possible. So again, let us know so that we can address the points that Chris and Mike just discussed.
So here's another question from earlier. Is what is a good entry level job?
So the first entry level job for the cloud architect is a cloud architect. There's no reason to do entry level jobs. That's crazy. So about 25 years ago, I wanted to become a network engineer. You can't do that, Mike. You got to become a network admin or help desk and do this for a couple of years, and then you can move to this job, and then you can finally become a network engineer. Went on my first interview, and they said, you're not a network engineer, you're a senior network engineer, and that was this. So I will say this, that last week we got 6 people at cloud architect jobs. One of them is 21 years old with an associate degree. He's a really smart guy. Yeah. He's had 0 experience, and he just got hired by a global bank. We're going to bring him on our YouTube channel. We also had another person got hired by AWS. He's 22 years old, just graduated college. His name is Jordan. He now works for AWS, and he is amazing. And we got 4 other people. Well, one person, we got a network job. He's working at Cisco, my old stomping ground, which we're really happy about. And the other 3 had limited experience. All of them got hired. And it didn't matter the background.
And also, could we address also, water seeks its own level. Don't start off thinking that all you can get is an entry-level job. You will get all the tools you need here, and you're going to be able to socialize this at the right time about the tech, and you're going to be amazed at how far you can get from just starting where you are and learning the technology, social skills, business acumen, emotional intelligence. This is a wonderful equation, if you will, for success, but you have to solve it to get the answer that you need for your life.
But the key is, I'm going to say this right now, if you only train tech, you can't do it, because these people, and you can't just train cloud stuff either. The reason people can't get a job and they're being told you got to start with this entry level thing is the following. Certification is only the name of the service and how to configure it, which teaches you 0 about the cloud architect job. What you have to learn is you need to know the network and the data center. The network basically is all the BGP, the OSPF, the IP addressing, subnetting, supernetting, etc. You must know these things, and they're not covered in certification. That's what we teach them. You must know switching, which means VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, spanning tree, rapid spanning tree. You need to know NAT and all the use cases for NAT. It's not just connect to the internet. You need to know WAN technologies such as IPsec tunneling, SSL-based VPNs, Ethernet private lines, Ethernet over MPLS, software-defined networking, and SASE. DHCP, DNS, ARP, proxy ARP, etc., etc., etc. So there's those kind of things. And the data center things, virtual machines, etc., etc. It's containers and container orchestration. What kind of storage? We use block storage, object storage, file storage. It's that. It's understanding of when to use an ERP application, for example. When to use a CRM application. What do they do? How's the business? It's understanding business processes, reading financial statements, reading balance sheets, giving presentations, learning how to sell, building an ROI model, and learning executive presence. You do that, your first job is a cloud architect. You don't need to start at the bottom and try and learn on the way up. In fact, if you do, you might get stuck. My students don't start at the bottom. I've never had anybody that ever needed to take an entry-level job ever in all my career of coaching people. Never.
So we've got a couple other questions. I think Genevieve is asking if we help with creating resumes.
Of course, we help with resumes, interviewing techniques, salary negotiations. We help you with it, of course. But we have you do it, but we teach you how to do it. So you can have career success for lifetimes. You'll turn it in for feedback, and we'll help you make it better and better until it's perfect.
And then Robert asked, and I think we've got a video for this. Cloud architect, cloud DevOps, or cloud sysadmin?
Well, we can explain what they are. Well, cloud architect is a system designer. I'm going to tell you this right now. It's by your highest paid person by a factor of at least 2 times the rest of the careers at higher levels. It offers better career potential for the future. And in this good, it's not going to be outsourced. Now, sysadmin is probably the lowest paid, most challenging position in the entire world. It offers the least potential for advancement. And basically, it's a dead-end job. So we try to tell people not to do that. That job is ripe for being outsourced. There's no reason that needs to be done in the US. There's people that can do it cheaper. And in the challenging economies, then there's that. Now, DevOps. DevOps is a great job. We love DevOps. We don't teach DevOps because I'm an architect, and architecture and DevOps couldn't be farther from the truth. But DevOps is excellent. DevOps is great in a bad economy for the following reasons. Automation saves money. Now, thinking about that, can you outsource your DevOps engineer, though? And the answer is, of course you can. I don't care if my DevOps engineer is in India, Pakistan, Ethiopia, or Florida, because what they do is not customer-facing at all. So, cloud architect is a digital transformation specialist. They bring money into the company. So in bad economies, I suggest sales or architecture because you're most stable. But I love DevOps. I think it's a great career. Cloud sysadmin, I advise people to get out of those jobs and into better jobs because it's the lowest paying. And also, the management impression of the sysadmin is generally one of those positions where they say lack of soft skills, lack of social skills, geeky, nerdy. That doesn't mean it's actually true, but that's the perception. And when it comes to future jobs, we don't want that geeky, nerdy perception. Look, I'm a geek. If you really know me and you'd see my house, you'd know, but I can't show that to the world when I do business as an architect for that reason.
Hey, Mike, you're not giving us more experienced people enough examples here. So Raj asked, you guys are taking examples of young people 20 to 21 years old getting cloud architect jobs. How about the other side? If someone 55 years comes to your architect training and job, what are the chances? So I'm going to post the video also.
We'll post the video, but we had someone that took a several $100,000 cloud architect job after working with our program. And we've had several people. It's actually easier for me to get a 55-year-old than a 20-year-old. The reason I keep talking about the 20 and 21-year-olds, it's so hard to get them hired. 35 to 55 is actually maybe even 60 is pushing it, but even at 60, we're dealing with it. Here's the thing. Who do you want your architect to be? Someone that's got life experience, that understands business, that's been up and down several business cycles. That's who I want as my architect. Now, having said that, if I've got a 21-year-old like this kid that just got hired, because he's so good, he's 21. He's energetic, enthusiastic, compassionate. He's willing to do anything. So yeah, but I've got older people jobs, younger people jobs. We can easily get you a job as long as you did the work, and also you didn't try and hang on to the tech if you come from an engineering background. Because I've got lots of people that come from a tech background, and if they focus on engineering, then they don't get hired. I actually have to, in fact, my really good techies, and I was one of them, they're like, Mike, oh my God, the hardest part was not being a techie. It took me so hard from wanting to touch the tech or talk about the tech instead of the transformation. Steve Jobs said it best. Don't talk about the tech. Ever. Nike doesn't talk about the shoes.
Nope.
No.
Apple doesn't talk about their CPU performance or memory throughput as a rule.
Well, they do like once a year, I think. Like when
once a year, yeah.
Splash. But
what do they
other
show
than that, 360.
Creating a movie.
Yeah.
Somebody that's interacting with their friends. They show the transformation. Nobody talks about the tech. The only people that talk to the tech are the techies. And I work for a tech company. They're the best engineers in the world. These engineers would literally go to a bake-off competition, proof of concepts. That made this box sing. This box beat every time every competitors. You know how many deals they won? None. Because the competition was walking in, this is what we can do for your business, they were saying. Our box can do wire speed in the backplane. And the customer was like, I just want to make money.
Yeah. So
help me make money.
And you have to spend money to get this awesome box that you're advertising.
So back to the age thing. You know how much easier it is to get that 55-year-old twice the pay of the 21-year-old?
So easy.
Because that 55-year-old has experience. Whether it's use me as an example. I'm 36. I have 12 years of hotel experience. And before that, other experience. But I can transfer that experience of hotel operations to how I can do cloud, whatever it might be. Or if I worked at an automotive business for 20 years, I can translate that experience. That 21-year-old doesn't have the ability to talk about that experience. And that experience is going to get you more.
It's true.
Yes.
And to put it in the concept, my executive coach, who I love to death, she's been there with me forever. She's helped me so much. I was at a team meeting with her. My manager's in the meeting, and I'm 34 years old in a job where everybody else is at least 50. And my manager says, I'm still the youngest guy here at 46 years old, right? And I was thinking about it, and I received this kick under the table. And my coach, who was my partner at work at the time, she looked at me and she said, no, I am so grateful for her. No one even knew, because if they figured out I was 34, now, you know, it's really funny. I was in college and I had a problem with the professor. It was a reasonable problem. The professor was pregnant and had 3 jobs. I was the only guy in class, and she had a horrible thing with her husband, and she basically was going to be mean to me because I reminded her of her husband, who she didn't like. I went into class. We had to make a bed. And this professor comes over to my wife and says, you have a bad husband. And she says, why? My husband's great. And she says, he doesn't make a bed very well. And then there was a math on medication test, a med math test on medication. I was the only one in the class that got 100. And she gave me an F because my handwriting was wrong. So I called the dean. And I said, you know, Dean, I don't know what to do. I've been a paramedic for 7 years. I'm here. I get the highest score, and then I get an F. And she says, Michael, well, you're older than her, right? She says, you're what, 35? I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I'm 22. Nobody knew. But she said, I know you're a lot older than her and a lot more experience than her. She's got some challenges. So, you know, come back to class. I think it'll be different tomorrow. I went back to class. Hi, Mike. It's good to see you. How are you? But it's that. So keep that in mind. Do we have other questions, Chris?
Yeah. So we've got one more question, and then we got to wrap up the show, unfortunately. But we'll get to this question, then we'll wrap up the show. So let me find it here. So Robert, he asks, are cloud architect jobs strictly sales? Can you use that to use an internal system outside of sales? Or would you say it's more directed at providing solutions to customers? Oh, okay.
Okay, so Robert, it's a great question. I'll talk about the pre-sales architect versus the post-sales architect. But as a rule, for 80% of architects, the job is design, present, and sell. It's a design job, present job, and sell job. Now, let's say you're Walmart. And by the way, every big company has architects as well for them. Now, you're Walmart. Do you really want AWS coming in and telling you all of their proprietary solutions that they're going to recommend, which is what they're going to recommend? And Google's going to come and recommend some of their solutions, some of which are proprietary, and so will Microsoft. They all will. Why? Once you're on their proprietary solutions, you can't leave them. And some of their proprietary solutions are owned, and what are you going to like? Your own brand. So most companies also have architects. And these are post-sales architects. And you know what they do? They design the tech, and who's their customer? They go to the CEO, CIO, CTO, what are you trying to do? What do you need help with? And they say, these are our problems. And then these architects say, okay, I'm going to work with the third parties to design a solution. The post-sales architect works in the company. They work with the security people, the sysadmin people, the networking people, the storage people, the finance people, the accounting people, the workflow people. They work with everybody. And then they go and call Cisco, they call Palo Alto, they call Checkpoint, they call Fortinet, they call AWS, they call Azure, etc. And then they kind of look at what's going on from all of these people and say, I think this would be the best thing. Then they issue something called a request for proposal, which is when they submit it out for bid, maybe a request for information before that, or RFQ, which is a request for a quote. And then the architect that sends it to the teams fill it out, and then they sell it back. And then the pre-sales architects design, present, and sell it to the customer. And the post-sales architect is the person that works with the architect the main time to basically come up with a solution. So most companies also have their own architecture team that, again, designs, presents, and who do they sell to? Their internal management. They sell the design. It's always going to be design, presentations, and sales, though, whether you work for the company or not. Are you selling your architecture to the CEO? Or are you selling your and you work there? Or are you the sales rep selling your architecture to the CEO? Either case, you're still selling. It's a great question there.
It was.
Yep, that was a good question. So I think it's time that we wrap it up. I want to say a couple of things, and I know Elonzo probably wants to say a couple of things, and then we'll let Mike say a single thing.
I talk a lot.
So there's a couple of things that I want to say. So obviously, this entire show is preemptive.
Yeah.
This episode is a preemptive show. We don't know what's going to happen, but we want everyone to be prepared for success.
Yes.
Whether it's in a good economy, a down economy, a neutral economy, we want you to be prepared. Everything that we talked about in this show today can and should be implemented anytime, all the time, for you to be successful. But we talked about them specifically today in the scope of preparing yourself for difficult times.
Yeah.
There are things that we didn't mention that can be helpful all the time. But these are the things that we think are the most helpful for difficult times.
Yes.
And so that's what this show is about. Again, we don't know what's going to happen. All our key metrics that we are looking at are pointing to a difficult road ahead. That doesn't mean it's going to be horrible, bad, or anything, but that everything's pointing to this most likely situation. So we want to make sure that you're prepared for it. We'll know before the end of the summer. So we're starting now. And this is just the beginning. We're going to be putting out more content over the next couple of weeks to help you be prepared, whether it be videos, whether it be blog articles, LinkedIn posts. You know, Mike, he likes the LinkedIn post. we're and excuse me, I've got the automated lights here.
Dance, Chris.
Yeah, I got to dance for the lights. But over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be putting together content for you to help you prepare and know what to do to better yourself. We're going to be writing our own on thought articles, as well as contributing to other platforms. So we're going to share all of this with you. So make sure you're watching out for it. So there's one last thing. Any metrics, any data points, any companies that I or anyone else mentioned doesn't mean those are the only ones. Somebody was asking questions about, so does that mean Apple's not doing this, or does this mean Microsoft? I don't know. I only mentioned ones that I had specific information for. We can't mention every single company. We can't mention every single data point.
So and even Chris share with them as well, even as we were collating this data, it was continually changing.
It was continually changing. Right. Like I didn't know that the Fed was meeting with the president today until I got a notification on my phone saying Biden meeting with Powell at, and I'm like, well, what? Why are they meeting? But it's ever changing. But I just wanted to point that out. Just because I didn't say something, or just because Elonzo didn't say something, doesn't mean that it's not happening.
Right.
Other organizations may be having difficulties or doing things. Just because we didn't mention it doesn't mean that it's not happening. So don't use us as your only source.
Yes.
Anyway, those are my closing comments. That one's been kind of tickling in the back of my head. I wanted to make sure that people realize I wasn't laying out the entire picture.
Right. And also, while we're at it, note that we generally focus on the enterprise space and people that deal with enterprise customers for the following reason. We are cloud architects, and the Fortune 100, Fortune 1000 comes to us for digital transformation. I love Apple, but they're not enterprise business. They're consumer business. So it's not something that we're going to follow as closely as the other customers, because, this big bank isn't going to say, Mike, we need all iPhones and Mac and all Apple ecosystem. Not because the Apple stuff isn't great, but it's not going to meet their business needs. And it's never about the tech. If it was, we'd all have Red Hat Enterprise Linux notebooks. Best operating system in the world. Most stable. But we have Windows for a reason, because we need to do more for business than just have stability. Lonzo, you want to make a point and then I'll close this?
Overall, plan your work your plan. Okay. Make sure that you understand why you're here. Time and schedule what you're doing to become the greatest architect, the greatest cloud engineer you want to be. Execute it. Stay focused on that. Like you said, Mike and Chris, this is not a one-stop shop of all resources and information. That we're just presenting possibilities, trends that look like things are going to end up as a certain situation, but we're asking you to prepare for your coursework, prepare to complete it, just plan to get everything ready to be the person that you want to be, and get ready, prepare to be, and prepare to exist, prepare to thrive in these environments, whether it's austere or it's perfect. We want to prepare you for the best, to be the best, and to thrive in the best environment, whether it's good or it's bad. So just do the work, come to class, participate, let us share our knowledge with you so that we can have great discussions and we'll be able to answer any questions you have via the Slack channel.
Love that. I'm going to add a couple of things, but it's going to be very short. First one comes from the Navy SEALs, or some SEALs that I know. Destiny favors the prepared. When you are prepared, you're going to be successful. I've trained these agility things. Now, I mentioned cloud engineers. You can still be fine as a cloud engineer. If you want to be a hands-on engineer and you're not directly tied to RevNet, that's fine. Build your social skills up, your leadership skills, your sales skills, your emotional intelligence. Volunteer for projects. Be the best. When everybody else is a jack of all trades and a master of none, focus on your thing and be great. Make yourself better than the rest. And the last thing, to me, I do believe there's something called luck, and I believe it's when preparation meets opportunity. When you're prepared, and then there's an opportunity, that's what I view luck as. So, you can have the best job market in the world, but if you're not prepared, you're not getting hired.
So do the work.
Job market in the world, and you can still get hired if you've got the right skills. Now, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be harder. It's going to take more time. But if you're better, you're still going to get hired.
Yep. I think we've all made some great points to start this conversation. And I said start this conversation.
We'll provide a lot more data.
This is the start of our conversation with the community about this.
And we'll start to have much more coherent things with much more numbers and metrics. We're going to extend the 30% Memorial Day discount because of what's going on in the economy. Coupon code is Memorial. Use it for every thing that you want to do. And then you'll be in great shape.
All right.
And make sure also, if you haven't hit that like button, do so. It's really good for the algorithm. Definitely want to make sure that whoever was not able to participate, that they could get the recorded session and be able to benefit from this as well.
There's always room for the best. And for people that, okay, never mind. Okay, sounds really great. So be prepared, be prepared, be prepared. And then when you've got it, I'll give you one last piece of advice my uncle taught me. Adapt, improvise, and overcome. And never, ever, ever quit until you're successful. Never quit. Never quit. Never quit.
All right.
We could add an oorah at the end of that or something like that, or a hoo-yah for the Navy. I don't care. But win, win, win. So prepare, prepare, prepare. Build your battle plan or build your dive plan. Plan your dive and then dive your plan and you're good to go. I spent too much time scuba diving, obviously.
Yes. And remember, tomorrow morning, we'll have a Q&A session for everybody.
9 a.m. We'll be focused 100% on things.
Yep. And also, remember, you don't have to do it with us. You can do it on your own. We'll tell you can. We'll tell you exactly how to do it all by yourself.
Yeah, I tell you everything you need to know in every Q&A. You can do it with me or someone else. I always tell you how to do it on your own.
Yep. So, and we've got plenty of people who come on the Q&As and say, "Hey, I got cloud hired. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your advice. It's what worked."
Exactly, because sometimes all you need is some advice. You don't, All right. So, thank you guys and gals.
And as you can see, the bots are now putting all kinds of wacky stuff in there. That's guess what happens.
Yeah, actually, that one's kind of spot on. Yes. Expert in the making. It's going to be a new day. Zoned and focused. I like the zoned and focused. We'll take that.
A new day, baby. Oh, you know what? Okay, that's
have to
I misinterpreted that.
Yeah.
You got a hashtag.
The exclamation points and the emojis made it look like a bot, but
it did, but it's not okay. Apologies for that.
Yeah.
And we've had bots popping in, all kinds of things. People are saying horrible things that we've had to remove about people's ethnicities today.
Yeah.
For those of you that are out there, we love you guys. We are very happy and concerned about your career success. I have no control over some of the wacky people that pop in sometimes and say negative things about others. They're not welcome on our channel. We remove them from our channel. All we care about is your success.
Yep.
Get cloud hired, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Take care, everyone. Have a great
Thank you so much, 3D Online Services. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.